Hi, welcome to Mondays at the Museums. My name is Emily, and I'm your online museum educator. Thank you all for joining us today. Today is the first week in a 6-week journey through one of the world's greatest museums, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Now, we're not really going to go to the Met, but we will be taking virtual trips there during our time to experience a few of the pieces out of their huge collection of art and artifacts. There are hundreds of people who work at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. We want to start by thanking the amazing educators, curators, and administrators at the Met who worked very hard to take pictures and videos and create interactive online experiences so that people like us can enjoy and learn from their collection. Today, we're going to explore the why and the what of museums. And we're going to take our first virtual visit to the Metropolitan Museum of Art via the Met's Met Kids website. At the end, I hope that you can show new and greater understanding of where museums come from, show new and greater understanding of what a museum is, and understand the basic entry points to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Throughout our time today, I'm going to offer some times for you when I think it would be a good chance to pause your video and either reflect or think about what we've just talked about, or talk to your grown-up using some of the questions offered on the slides. This is a good time to pause and think about what you already know about museums. Where do you think the first museum was? Why do you think museums were made in the first place? What do you think a museum is for? Let's watch and see how close your answers are to what the video says. Why do we have museums? I'm going to turn up my sound and I'm going to hide.
Hello everyone, let's begin our guided tour. Welcome to the Museum of Museums. Museums have been a part of human history for over 2,000 years, but they weren't always like the ones we visit today. The history of museums is far older and much stranger than you might imagine. We'll start over here in the Greek wing. Our word museum comes from the Greek museon, temples built for the muses, the goddesses of the arts and the sciences. Supplicants asked the muses to keep watch over academics and grant ingenuity to those they deemed worthy. The temples were filled with offerings of sculptures, mosaics, complex scientific apparatuses, poetic and literary inscriptions, and any other tribute that would demonstrate a mortal's worthiness for divine inspiration. We have arrived at the Mesopotamian wing. The first museum was created in 530 BC in what is now Iraq, and the first curator was actually a princess. Enigaldi Nana started to collect and house Mesopotamian antiquities in Egig Par, her house. When archaeologists excavated the area, they discovered dozens of artifacts neatly arranged in rows, with clay labels written in 3 languages. She must have had interesting parties. The tradition of collecting and displaying intriguing items began to be mimicked, as you can see here in the Roman Empire wing. Treasure houses of politicians and generals were filled with the spoils of war, and royal menageries displayed exotic animals to the public on special occasions like gladiator tournaments. As you can see, we have a lion here, and a gladiator, and, well, the janitor ought to be in this wing, clearly. Moving on, hurry along. The next step in the evolution of museums occurred in the Renaissance, when the study of the natural world was once again encouraged after almost a millennium of Western ignorance. Curiosity cabinets, also referred to as Wunderkammers, were collections of objects that acted as a kind of physical encyclopedia, showcasing artifacts. Just step into the wardrobe here, there you go, mind the coats, and we'll tour Ola Worm's cabinet. One of the most notable Wunderkammers belonged to a wealthy 17th century naturalist, antiquarian, and physician, Ola Worm. Ola Worm collected natural specimens, human skeletons, ancient runic texts, and artifacts from the New World. In other curiosity cabinets, you could find genetic anomalies, precious stones, works of art, and religious and historic relics. Oh my, you might not want to touch that. These cabinets were private, again, often in residencies, curated by their owners, rulers and aristocrats, as well as merchants and early scientists. Now, who hears a circus organ? In the 1840s, an enterprising young showman named Phineas T. Barnum purchased some of the more famous cabinets of curiosity from Europe and started Barnum's American Museum in New York City, a spectacular hodgepodge of zoo, lecture hall, wax museum, theater, and freak show that was known for its eclectic residents, such as bears, elephants, acrobats, giants, Siamese twins, a Fiji mermaid, and a bearded lady, along with a host of modern machinery and scientific instruments. Museums open to the public are a relatively new phenomenon. Before Barnum, the first public museums were only accessible by the upper and middle classes, and only on certain days. Visitors would have to apply to visit the museum in writing prior to admission, and only small groups could visit the museum each day. The Louvre famously allowed all members of the public into the museum, but only 3 days a week. In the 19th century, the museum as we know it began to take shape. Institutions like the Smithsonian were started so that objects could be seen and studied, not just locked away. American museums in particular commissioned experiments and hired explorers to seek out and retrieve natural samples. Museums became centers for scholarship and artistic and scientific discovery. This is often called the museum age. Nowadays, museums are open to everybody, are centers of learning and research, and are turning into more hands-on institutions. But the question of who gets to go is still relevant, as ticket prices can sometimes bar admission to those future scholars, artists, and targets of divine inspiration who can't afford to satisfy their curiosity. Thank you all for coming, and please feel free to stop by the gift shop of gift shops on your way out.
How cool was that? Who knew that the first museum was in Iraq and organized by a princess, or that the word museum comes from the ancient Greeks giving offerings to the muses? What about curiosity cabinets? I think it's pretty cool that P.T. Barnum's circus was a museum first. So, mostly, museums are spaces that tell stories about people, places, and things using objects and or images. The Metropolitan Museum of Art is considered an encyclopedic museum. This means that they have collections of objects and images from multiple time periods and from all over the world. Sometimes we go to museums and look at objects already knowing a little something about them, but we can learn more by looking closely and asking questions about objects or images. Sometimes there are completely new things we learn about too, and that's super exciting. Over the next few weeks, we will be visiting the Metropolitan Museum of Art and learning about the amazing pieces we can learn from their collections of objects and images. So, let's go to the Met. This is the best part. So we're going to click through here. The Met kids, oh my goodness, look at this. I'm going to move myself over to the side. Welcome to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, a world of art that make that many worlds is ready and waiting for you. Let's start here at the beginning. Oh, wow. Well, it looks like we are looking at the museum from the streets of New York City, where it is. So let's start with the outside. Let's see what this dot tells us. This is about the facade. So if we click on this and I move myself out of the way, there's so much to see before you even step foot inside the Met. Did you know that the museum was never completely finished? Look up at the facade in the front of the building. On top of the 4 tall pairs of columns or pillars sit pyramid-shaped piles of blocks. Do you see all those? The original plan was for these blocks to be 4 groups of sculptures, each carved in a different style of art: Egyptian, Greek, Renaissance, and modern. Unfortunately, the architect died before his designs could be completed and they were left uncarved. Oh my goodness, we've learned something new before we even stepped inside of the Metropolitan Museum. Let's see what happens when we do that. Oh, the first thing we're going to see, of course, is the information desk. Let's see what we can get at the information desk. Oh my goodness, the volunteers, they speak Chinese, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Portuguese, Russian, and Spanish. My goodness, this is a great place to pick up a map and a family guide, download the Met app, and meet up with friends. Wow. Let's see what else we find when we first come in. I'm going to check out these great hall flowers. The Great Hall flowers. I'm going to move myself over here now so you can see me. Did you know the Met receives a new shipment of flowers every Monday, which the museum's florist uses to create beautiful designs to create when you arrive? These seasonal bouquets, which fill the Great Hall with bright colors and sweet smells, can reach up to 12 feet tall. What? Wow, that is beautiful. Let's see what else we can find out. Move myself back over here. What's going on? Oh, the Great Hall, for sure. The Great Hall. Ooh, it looks like there's a video we can watch. Let's discover first. Congratulations. If you're standing here, you're now one of over 6 million visitors from 189 countries across the globe who visited the Met in the last year. That is amazing. This place is abuzz with activity, and this is where you begin your museum journey. 3 giant domes. Dome is a hemispherical or curved ceiling, I see. Soar 75 feet above the Great Hall, and every which way you'll find enormous arches and column-lined passageways waiting like wormholes to transport you back in time and around the world. Wow, well, let's see what this kid has to say.
I've always been fascinated by how science works. You have to use science to construct things like physics. Hello, I'm Tobias, and I'm 9 years old.
I'm Aileen Chuk. I'm the Chief Registrar here at the Metropolitan Museum.
What does a register mean?
We're in charge of all the art that comes in or out of the building.
How do you fit all the artwork through the doorways that are only
Sometimes it's really, really difficult.
How did they fit this in here? Would they take apart this building and then build it up again?
That's exactly what they did, actually. You can see that the building is made out of blocks of stone. And before we moved it, each block of stone was numbered. And so all we had to do was take it apart and put it back together again.
So it's 1, 2, 3. They took that apart and then they put 1, 2, 3 back in order again?
True. So at least this breaks down into a lot of small parts.
You're lucky with that.
I know.
But what about huge paintings that are...
Exactly right. And how about that big Egyptian sculpture that's in the Great Hall? He's 10 tons.
Whoa.
He just came in the museum 2 years ago.
Really?
Yes, he came from Berlin.
Awesome.
We brought it in at 6 o'clock in the morning.
And you probably ended around 8 o'clock at night.
We ended at midnight. Because you've learned a little bit about physics, right?
Yeah,
so
a little bit,
we
yeah.
have to worry about the floors.
You don't want
in
to
the
crack
museum.
the floors.
Because you have to worry about floor loads. You know what floor loads are?
There's weak spots.
Exactly. So in order to move it, we had to spread the weight of that sculpture.
You had to cut in half?
Well, what we did was we moved it a couple of inches at a time. We put down wood, and then we put down steel plates. And we had to wrap him up, put straps on him, and then we had to stand him up. Oh, we did all of that in one day.
Yeah.
On a Monday when the museum was closed.
That's smart.
See, now the museum's open 7 days a week. So I guess he has to stay there for quite a while.
Yeah. If there's a small piece that's hanging off, gravity will pull down at that piece and the entire building will go timber.
That's an excellent explanation. Thank you, Tobias.
Oh, that's really cool. Let's close this. Let's go back to the map. Oh my goodness. So much to look at. This is incredible. Oh my. Let's see here. There is so much to choose from. We could go to the South Pacific, or gosh, maybe we could look at some musical instruments. Where are the musical instruments? I know I saw them here earlier. Gosh, I'm going to start moving around and just see what something pops out to me. There's something shiny. Oh, let's see. Oh, let's look at this one. Oh, wow. Armor, shining armor. Let's see what this is. Has a fun fact here that says this armor was made more than 450 years ago for Henry VIII, the King of England. Well, he's most famous today for having had 6 wives. 6 wives, 2 of whom were beheaded. Oh my, oh, it looks like we can watch something, discover, imagine, create. Oh, this one has lots of information. We can learn that it was made, let's look at it for a second, by Hans Holbein the Younger. It's made out of steel, gold, leather, and copper alloys. Let's see, do you see the gold? I see the gold. Wow, and I see the steel too. It was made in 1527. And it was made in Europe, more specifically the United Kingdom, even more specifically England, and even more specifically London, and to be really specific, Greenwich. And we can find it in the Arms and Armor area, or Gallery 371 at the Met. That's a lot of galleries. Let's look at this video and see how the museum takes care of all the armor.
Hi, I'm Xavier. I'm 11 years old. I am from Manhattan. We're here in the Conservation Lab of Arms and Armor.
Hi, my name's Ted. I'm the conservator for the Department of Arms and Armor at the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
How long does armors last?
It depends on how well taken care of it is. We have things up in the galleries right now that are 1,000 years old. A lot of that is because of conservators here in the museum, like myself, who spend a lot of time taking care of those things.
A conservator helps make armor last by preserving it.
We make sure that they're in a good environment and that they have good storage or display conditions. We keep them clean, and the more we take care of it, the longer it will last.
How do you take care of objects without damaging them?
Do you want me to show you?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to go over to my desk.
Okay.
We have a rule here in Arms and Armor, and the rule is sneak up on the art. What do you think that means?
Sneak up means like look closely.
Exactly. Very good. Look closely and go slowly. If you look here, what do we see?
Rust.
It's got some rust going on under there. One of the ways I clean things is with little tools like this. This is a scalpel, like a doctor would use, right? But I don't do surgery. I use it for scraping rust. And I'll work like this. And like I'm going slow. Where I said sneak up on the art? Okay, this is how you do it. You go real slow. And I'm going to just scrape off a little bit of this at a time.
I can see some coming
You
off.
can see it coming off. Now, if I did this too fast, I might take off too much. I might scratch it. So I go very, very slowly to take off this rust. Just this little bit here, I've been working on it a few minutes, and it's still got a long way to go. I once spent 4 months on one armor. It was a big mess, and it smelled bad because I had to use chemicals and things to clean off some of the old lacquers.
You have to be really careful with cleaning arms and armor.
My job is to know when to stop cleaning. My goal is not to make it look brand new. What I want to do is protect it and clean it so that it looks as an old thing. I have a question for you. Do you know of any sports that people play today that need armor?
One of the sports that I play is ice hockey. And what I wear for ice hockey, I wear a hard vest, I wear a helmet and a mouth gear.
Sounds like armor to me, man.
This is Xavier reporting from the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
That was awesome!
The end.
Great. Excellent.
That's fantastic. How cool is that? Oh my goodness. Let's go one more place before we end the day. Let's see what we can learn. There's the armor. There's a lot here. It's so overwhelming. Let's see. I'm going to go and move myself over here. I'm going to go to ancient Greece. Earlier, we were learning about how the Greeks used to give things to the muses, and this looks a lot like the same image they were using in that video, doesn't it? This is the marble sarcophagus with the triumph of Dionysus and the seasons. Oh, so this is a type of coffin called a sarcophagus, which means flesh eater in Greek. How cool is that? Oh, looks like we can watch, discover, imagine, and create here too. I wonder what we could create. Let's go look down at that. Oh, maybe if you're with a group today, you could dress up as the 4 seasons by wearing seasonal clothing and holding objects and props that symbolize different times of year. See, symbolize. Symbolize is to serve as a symbol, a letter, color, sign, or picture that expresses a larger meaning. Oh, I guess Met Kids is also a symbol, wouldn't it? Or maybe this rocket here is a symbol, meaning imagine, because you have to imagine a lot to be able to go up into space. You can even play charades, taking turns to act out your favorite seasonal activities while your friends guess the activity and the season. That sounds like fun. Let's see what else we've got here. Let's watch one more video before we leave. This is a good one. I've seen it before. Maybe at the end, you'll want to read this book on your own.
Claudia knew that she could never pull off the old-fashioned kind of running away. That is, running away in the heat of anger with a knapsack on her back. She didn't like discomfort. Therefore, she decided that leaving her home would not be just running from some place, but would be running to somewhere, to a large place, a comfortable place, an indoor place, and preferably a beautiful place. And that's why she decided upon the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. Hi, I'm Abby and I'm 10 years old.
I'm Alice Schwartz. I'm a museum educator here at the Met.
Well, I first read the book in 3rd or 4th grade and I really liked it because there were kids my age running away to a museum and I would never imagine doing that. And I think it's a book about bravery and how they were so brave to run away to a place that they never went before. When did you first read this book?
I read the book first when I was 10 years old. I just started 5th grade here in New York City. And I used to come to the Met all the time as a kid. And now I've been working here for 31 years. So it's like second home to me. I remember when I read this at 10, I completely got lost in the story. I almost felt like I was traveling through the museum with Jamie and Claudia. And that's what you can do here at the museum live. You can get lost literally walking through the galleries and kind of learning things as you go. These are all the English rooms. You can see a dining room over there. All of those sort of the flowers inside. right? All of that we made, but it's based on ancient Greek architecture. And this is all the Book of the Dead. So, Abby, if you ran away and came to spend a week at the Met, who would you bring?
I really don't know. I would probably bring my brother because he would not be going around touching everything like my other sisters, and I feel like he could keep a secret. I'm very organized, so I can read maps and follow directions. He's very good at building things, so if something would break, he would know how to put it back together.
Perfect.
Do you know some places that are true and not true in the book?
Well, pretty much everything that Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler talks about in the book, we have something here at the museum that's very similar to it.
The bed had a tall canopy supported by an ornately carved headboard at one end and by two gigantic posts at the other. Claudia looked as satisfied as the bronze statue of the Egyptian cat she was standing near.
And then look at the tiny whiskers in the front.
Whoa, yeah. There's eagles, there's a goat, I think. Were they originally painted blue?
Yes, it's something called faience. So look, do you see the
I
columns
see
there? Those are the columns. So everything you see here with a fountain in the middle, that used to be one long fountain.
Do they turn off the fountains at night?
That's a very good question. I don't know.
Claudia hid her violin case in a sarcophagus that had no lid. It was a beautifully carved Roman marble sarcophagus.
It's just like that, right?
Wow, so this is real.
This is a Roman sarcophagus, a couple of thousand of years old. And if you look, do you see the main guy in the center on the back of a panther? That is Bacchus. And then as you look going from the left to the right, there are other figures holding objects that represent the four seasons. Do you remember what a sarcophagus is?
It's a coffin.
It's a coffin. I think you have to look at their little toes.
I know, they're so cute.
They are cute.
If I could make a wish in the fountain, I would probably wish for good things to happen to my family and probably to visit the museum again because this is a very beautiful place and I really like it.
I like that wish.
That was great. Oh my goodness, how exciting. I want to read that book. I don't know about you guys, but I sure do. Okay, well, that is going to end our trip to the Met today. So we're going to go back over to here. And I want to thank you all for joining me today. I hope you all enjoyed our time together as much as I did. I have one more pause time for you to reflect and chat with a grown-up or write in your journal. And then I have a challenge for you. Do you know more about where museums came from than you did before today's class? Let's list a few things. Do you know more about what museums are for than you did before today's class? Let's list a few things or talk to your grown-up about it. And do you know more about the Metropolitan Museum of Art than you did before today's class? I do. I learn something new every time. If you want to, you can go ahead and list a few things, or even draw a picture about what you learned today. My challenge for you this week is to go to a local museum, any local museum. You can compare and contrast your museum with what you saw at the Met. Do they have an information desk? What kinds of things were you able to get at the information desk? How did they get the objects and art into their museum? Is there someone you can ask? Is their collection encyclopedic like the Met? Or do they focus on one area or subject like science or contemporary art? Write down some questions that you would like to ask for your local museum. Thanks again for coming, and I can't wait to see you next Monday at the museum. Bye.